We come as one student, group A and B, in the first writing skill that we are going to deal with today. So the first writing skill that we are going to deal with is writing an assignment summaries, how to summarize text and how to reduce the length and how to make the text or an article or a page shorter than the original one. Of course, in these writing skills, the focus will be on summarizing, note-taking, quoting, paraphrasing, and referencing. Of course, these skills, these writing skills are crucially needed and absolutely necessary for writing essays and for writing research papers, monograph, master research, and doctoral dissertations. So today we are going to explore and discover the main necessary steps and strategies to summarize effectively the text and reducing the form, reducing the length of the text, of course taking into account different tabs and different tactics. Of course, the lecture will be ultimately devoted to show you some strategies of summarizing, okay, for effective making and writing effective summaries now. Okay, so let's start with the reading comprehension. Most of the time, students are totally required to summarize text. So before reading the text and summarizing the text. So in reading comprehension, most of the time you have a text and you have comprehension text. So sometimes you are asked to summarize the text. So in order to understand the text, most of the time you need to summarize the text to reduce the format of the text. So the best way to understand any text is to condense it into its main points. Means reducing the text and fragmenting the text, categorizing, classifying the main important thoughts, minor thoughts, main ideas and minor ideas, details and supporting details. So all these are very necessary to determine the main important main ideas of the text. Before you can summarize, you must understand the information that you are going to condense. So the first step that you need in order to summarize effectively the text, so the important thing that you have to do right now is to read the text and try to understand the text. Without understanding the main important ideas and details of the text, so it's automatically you will not be able to summarize the text effectively. So the most important condition now is that you have to read the text for the first time, for the second time, for the third time in order to be able to grasp and detect the main ideas of the text. Of course, now for research papers, most of the time we need summaries for what? For writing research papers, for team papers, for articles, writing monographs and writing master research and doctoral dissertations. So these writing skills, which is summarizing, of course you will need it through all your academic journey. So for research paper, summarizing is important when you need to condense ideas from sources like books, articles, and websites for a research paper. When you are conducting a research paper, looking for details and reading sources and trying to consult books, consulting articles, online articles, or e-books on the websites, so most of the time you need to condense only because it's totally impossible to remember exactly what you have read before. So the best way to remember the most important and the most significant details is that you are going to only to summarize the most important points in the text, in the book, in the article that you have consulted. Now, we are going right now to give a clear and a very concise and precise definition for summary. Of course, the noun is summary, and the verb is to summarize, to sum up, to reduce, or to shorten the text, or to reduce the length of the text, means to make the text shorter than the original. So a summary means a condensed version of the text that only includes the main important ideas, which means now when you are trying to summarize the text or article, you have to be honest, means you have only to include only the most significant, the most important details, the most important points. Of course, summary, it's what you call a reduced version of the text. So, of course, there are different types of what you call types of summaries. Of course, summaries, it may consist of a single word, which means you can summarize the whole text, more than one page, like maybe 2, 3, or more than 10 pages, only in a single word. So there are summaries which are called one-word summary. And of course, another types of summary, it can be a single phrase, it can be several sentences, so you can summarize the text in several sentences, and in what you call in certain paragraphs, like in 2 or 1 or 2 paragraphs. In 1 to several paragraphs. This is what you call a summary. So there are different formats and different forms of summary. So this is what you call the concise definition that has been given to a summary. So a summary is a condensed version. So when you are summarizing the text, you are condensing it, you are reducing the length and the size of the text. So if the text, for example, includes like more than 5 paragraphs, so you can summarize it in 1 sentence, in 1 word, in 2 or 3 sentences. It depends on the assignment, it depends on the question that you have on your exam paper. So if you have, like, if you are assigned or if you are obliged to summarize the text, you have at least to take into account the question and the assignment. Whether you are required to summarize the text in 1 word, 1 sentence, 2 sentences, in a short paragraph, no more than 2 or 3 lines or 4 lines. So it depends on the question that you have on the exam paper. Of course, now summaries, we are going to see what you call some qualities or some conditions, some what you call guidelines to write, some direction that are very significant, very efficacious for writing a very concise and a very accurate summaries. So the first condition or the first requirement is that all the summaries, your own personal summary, should be written in your own words, which means you should not use the original text statements, so you have to use your own personal grammatical structure, your own words and your own sentences. Means this is what you call the first, what you call important requirement. So summaries should be written in your own style, in your own words. So in order to avoid using the original statement or the same statements and sentences that are used by the authors of the original text, here you have only to paraphrase. To paraphrase means using your own styles. You have to change what you call the grammatical structure of sentences in order to make it in your own words. So the first requirement that all the summaries, this is a kind of obligation. So students are totally obliged to write their own summaries in their own words, in their own grammatical structure. So the second requirement is that summary should match the tone of the original text. Means you have also to read the text, understand the text, and try also to contextualize the text. Means the real context of the original text, to have what you call a certain compatibility with the text and the summaries that you have written. The third one is that when you summarize the text, there is also a very important requirement, is that students should make specific reference to the author, the name and the title, the page. So when you are summarizing, most of the time there is a title. A text can contain a title and the name of what you call the author's name. So automatically when you start your summary, the students are totally prohibited to start their own summaries without mentioning the author's name and without mentioning the title. So at least if there is a name of the author or the author's name, this name should be used at the beginning of your own summary, like starting the author states or the author evokes or the author maintains. So this to make a kind of what you call space between your own statements and the author, the original statement. So another requirement that summaries, of course, should not include any of your own opinion. So the summaries, you have to be so neutral, and you have to be impersonal. You have also to state what you call to deal objectively with the text. Means only dealing with the thoughts that are transmitted by the author in his or her own text, without including your own personal opinions or thoughts. The next thing that you have to know, now of course we are going to see the most significant requirements or guidelines for writing a summary. Of course the first requirement, the summary should offer a balanced coverage of the original. So you have to make a kind of balance, a kind of parallelism between your summary and the main important details or the most important things that have been transmitted in the text. The second one, it's the summary should be written in a very neutral fashion. Neutral fashion means avoiding your own personal opinion and your own personal perception. So the summary should be written in neutral, objective, formal, and impersonal fashion. So you should not include any of your own subjective thoughts and opinions. Also, it should condense the source materials and present it in the summary lectures in your own words. So the summary should be ultimately written in your own words without using the author statements. Of course, here there are some what you call requirements, and all the students who are going to write summaries, they are kindly invited to avoid what you call copying directly from the text or using the same words, using the same statements that the authors have employed in their own original texts. Of course, now we have to move to now for other thing, which means how to summarize some steps and some technical strategies that are very practical and very applicable for writing summaries. Now, steps to summarizing. Of course, if you have this assignment, if you are asked to summarize the text, so it depends on the question whether you are going to summarize in 1 line, 2 lines, 3 lines, 1 paragraph, or 2 paragraphs. So it depends on the assignment. It depends on the question that you have, for assignments. Okay, now steps to summarizing. So there are 4 steps and 4 what you call steps that are very crucial and very practical for making an effective and for writing an effective summary. So the first one is previewing, reading, evaluating, and organizing. Of course, this is the 4th, what you call the 4 steps, and all of them are very interconnected with each other, and the result, you are going to write a very very applicable and very practical and very accurate, well written and well organized summaries. So let's start with the first one is with the text. So before summarizing the text, you have before reading the text, so the first thing that you have to do is that you have to skim and scan the title. You have to preview the title. So you have to, why the titles? Because most of the time there is a logical connection between the text and the title. Most of the time the title offers what you call a key term or key important thought that the text is revolving around. So a title usually condenses the main idea of the article. So either directly or indirectly, titles include the most important ideas of the text. The second one is that you have to preview what you call the second important element, subtitles. Sometimes texts contain subtitles or subsections. So they're what you call the main titles, and subtitles means minor titles. So the students, before summarizing the text, they have to skim and scan what you call the titles and the subtitles. So the subtitle, or there are also some words that are highlighted or written in different colors or in different size. So automatically they are what we call the key factors in determining the main important ideas that the text is revolving around. The third one, so after previewing the titles and the subtitles, sometimes there are headings and subheadings. Sometimes we have a text is classified and categorized. They are different headings and subheadings. So headings and subheadings break down the articles into sections, meaning there are different sections. Sometimes a text can have more than 1 section, 2 sections, and 3 sections, means with small titles or subheadings. Of course, these titles and subtitles, headings and subheadings are very important because automatically they are implicitly or explicitly immediately connected to the main ideas of the text. The third one, we have like first and last several paragraphs. Most of the time you have, if there is a text and the text contains or includes more than one paragraph, so you have to read the first paragraph and the last paragraph, based on the fact that the first paragraph includes what we call the thesis statement or the topic sentence of the whole text. Means that in the first paragraph, most of the time, the readers or the writers are trying to introduce the topic with a thesis statement. So most of the time, a thesis statement is a condensed version of the main thoughts of the text. Of course, the last paragraphs or the last paragraph, because the last paragraph contains the concluding statements and concluding sentences, concluding ideas, so automatically these will efficaciously support you as a writer to write a very effective summary. Yeah, and other items. So this is what we call the. Sometimes there are other important things, materials in the text that can sustain you finding and detecting the main important idea. So there are some bold-faced words, pictures, diagrams, and other highlighted items in the text. Of course, these materials can ultimately support you to find the exact thought. The second one, after scanning, skimming, previewing the text, scanning and skimming the title, the subtitles, the headings, the subheadings, or what you call sometimes the bold-faced words or the highlighted statements. The second step is reading. So why reading? Reading is a very fundamental step to understand the main ideas. So read the text without stopping. This is for the first time, and do not focus on the detail during the first reading. So in the first step, when you are reading the text, you should not focus on the details or sub-details or the minor details. Automatically, you have to try to look for what you call the most important thoughts. The second one, thus try to understand the main ideas, because the text can contain different items, starting from the main ideas, moving to minor details and supporting details, statistics, evidence, examples, illustrations, and elaborations. So automatically, in this step, you are concerned only with detecting the main important ideas and trying to forget about the minor details. The second one is evaluating. Evaluating means, of course, you have to read the text for the first and the second time, because it's totally impossible to understand the text for the first time. That's why you have to read the text for many times. So when you read for the second time, you have to try to use the surrounding context to understand words that are unfamiliar. So yeah, here in this context, you are going to explain the difficult words using your own dictionaries, either printed ones or online ones, to help you to understand the meaning, because sometimes there are some technical words that are very important to understand the text. That's why you have to explain them and define them using your own printed and online dictionaries. The third one, that you have to look for definitions, examples. These tables and graphics indicate key terms. Sometimes the text can include and can contain definitions, examples, illustrations, maps, pictures, and all these items are very fundamental in understanding the main idea of the text. Of course, after that, you are going to underline important ideas. So in this step, in this time now, you are going to underline important ideas. Now, how can you effectively underline and highlight important ideas or significant ideas? By note-taking. So you are reading the text for the second time or for the third time, and you are totally obliged to take notes. Means to highlight and to use certain different colors to highlight, to distinguish and to categorize and to classify thoughts into most important and less important, and minor thoughts. This is what we call underlining important ideas. Of course, in here you have to circle the clear terms if you see that they are very fundamental in understanding the text. And you have, of course, to note the main idea of each paragraph. We know the fact that each paragraph contains one important idea. That's why you have to understand all the paragraphs one by one, understanding the main thought of each paragraph. Of course, you are going to combine, and you're combining the thoughts that are illustrated by the paragraphs, and at the end you are going to combine and recombine, classify and categorize the thoughts that you have accumulated into most important, less important, and minor ones. Of course, the third, when you are evaluating the text, you are going to find the author's main points or arguments of the whole entire text. Of course, there is what you call a text, and the text includes many thoughts, and within the thoughts there is what you call the author's arguments. So at this stage, you are going to detect and try to see where is the main argument, or the main perspective, or the main thought, or the main author vision within the text. Of course, now moving to something very important. So the third stage is evaluating. The fourth one is organizing. So now you have previewed the text, you have what you call evaluated the text, and you have skimmed and scanned the text. Now it's time to organize all the thoughts, the notes that you have taken from the text, from the original or from the source material that you were trying to summarize. So now, how to start now? You have read the text, you have understood the text. Now it's time for what? For writing your own summary. So this is some of what you call practical techniques to organize your own summary. So the first step here is that you have to start summary with the title and the author of the work. This is very crucial. This is something what you call absolutely required to write a very academic, well-organized and well-structured, and very systematic summary. So here you have to start with the summary, with the title and the author of the work or the author's name, to make what you call distinction, to make a space between your own thoughts and what you call the thoughts of the original text. So when you start your summary with the title and the author's name, automatically you are informing the reader that it's not your own summary, it's not your own text. You are only writing for the second time, of course using your own paraphrasing, using your own style to convey some ideas of the original text in your own words. The second time, or the second step here, you have to write the author's main point or arguments in your own words. We have seen before that one of the fundamental requirements of writing summaries is that you have to use your own what you call summary in your own words, avoiding using the same statements and the same expressions that are used by the original text. The third one, that you have to write the remaining important ideas in your own words. Do not include examples, specific details, and quotations. So you have to be concise, brief, and to the point. You have to be specific, focusing only on the most important details, avoiding the examples, illustrations, or specific details or quotations that are included within the original text. Now, the fourth one, you have to write the article's conclusion in your own words. Of course, I have to highlight in your own words. You have to paraphrase your own vocabulary and your own grammatical structure. At the end, you have to organize the summary similar to the original text organization. If you want to keep what you call a certain balance, a certain parallelism concerning the organization of the thoughts. So you have to be loyal and honest to the original text's organization to write a very systematic, well-structured and well-organized summary, take into account the line of reasoning of the original text, and also taking the format organization of the original text. Now moving to something very important, some what you call extra details or extra requirement for writing a summary. So make sure that the summary is no more than 20% of the original, because a summary is making the text shorter, reducing the text, reducing the length and the size of the text, and trying to make the text very shorter. Another requirement, do not use technical words from the original. Use your own words as much as possible. So you have to be so personal. Try to use some called personal statement, personal vocabulary, and personal grammatical structure. Avoiding as much as possible the original words and the original text, the original statements that have been employed by the author. The third one, do not include too many details from the original. Since we are dealing with summaries, and summaries is a condensed version, a shortened version of the text, you have only to include the most important, what you call significant important details from the original. Do not please use what you call the similar words, same words, identical words used by the author. Of course, to avoid what you call the academic theft, you have to use what you call the author's name and page number of the text. Of course, moving to after when you finish your summary, you have to read, to proofread, to correct some what you call mistakes we have committed before. So you have to read for the second time, read for the first time, for the second time, to correct and to edit certain potential mistakes. Of course, now, this is a two-page text. The title, we have here the title. I'm going just to show you a potential assignment that you may be asked to summarize. So we have here the title and the name of the author. So before summarizing any text, please you have to read the title, you have to see the name, the author's name, and to see what you call the how many sentences and how many paragraphs, and most importantly what you call the question or the assignment that you have. Of course, if you have seen in your booklet study skills, page number here I'm going to see it. Yeah, page number 7, you have a text. And in this text, you have read carefully the text and see how the text can be summarized, reduced, shortened in one sentence, one paragraph, and 3 lines. So in the booklet here, you have a text that contains 3 paragraphs, and you have 3 examples or 3 assignment summaries. So how to summarize the text in one sentence, one paragraph, 3 lines, and 4 lines. So all students are required to read the text and see potential summaries that are written at the bottom of the page to see how they can write practical summaries based on the question and based on the assignments that they are asked to do and to summarize the text. And thank you very much.